So today I come from the University for Technology and Applied Science. Tedam is prefixed as an individual from the location of my new university. Just a little 1 second or 2 seconds to talk about my university. That was formerly with the University for Development Studies, called the UDS. I guess maybe many of you know the UDS. And then in 2020, the university was broken into three. So the UDS still stands. Now we have another baby called the Tedam University of Technology and Applied Science, located in the Nevrongo. That's still part of the northeast part of Ghana. So I'm coming from the Department of Environmental Science, and I've been working on the extractive sector, mining, particularly gold mining, oil and gas, and then the forestry. But today I want us to look at a proposed area of research that we are beginning to conduct, possibly collaboration with Wolfram in the northern part of Ghana. So I'm trying to look at the analysis of the extractive-led conflict from the environmental, and then sometimes the energy justice perspective, and evidence from gold mining in northern Ghana. Maybe a little of that will come up along my presentation. So my presentation is going to be basically the background, the problem, and then the research questions, the theoretical and philosophical foundations, the research methods, and the questions and the inputs that I will be expecting from you. It's a proposal, not much empirical data collected. So it's a proposal, and I would like your inputs to enrich and then suggestion as how best we can do the research starting very soon. So by way of introduction, try to understand that globally, the extractive sector poses a lot of questions, particularly about the satisfaction of stakeholders, and then particularly indigenous or local population as to what they expect to benefit from extractive sector. And this has been widely researched by Oti, Babetim, Rose, myself in recent times. And the research on this is so extensive about how local or indigenous people have been struggling with the multinationals in particular as to how much they benefit from the extractive sector, particularly gold mining, which has become very rampant in Africa, and for that matter, West Africa and Ghana, where I come from. And then our names presupposed before independence as Gold Coast. So gold mining is synonymous to Ghana. So local population have frequently expected to benefit from different forms of benefit, including employment. And we have heard of such agitations of non-employment, and then the concept of local content has come to stay, particularly in the extractive sector, and then coming to the extractive sector transparency initiatives, and then publish what you pay. A lot of initiatives have come as a result of these agitations as to how local populations can benefit. Apart from the large economic and GDP growth from extractives, these concerns about how much local in terms of the content, and then now the concept of local content is now emerging apart from the local content. So all this as a result of the concerns local people have had on their benefit from the extractive sector. So now the question has always been whether the expectations of these people have been met, and much of the research has pointed to the fact that these expectations have largely not been met, resulting into series of conflicts that have emerged over the years. And we can make mention in particular limited to Africa, in Nigeria, in the sector of the oil and gas in the Niger Delta. When you go to Congo, DR Congo, and then in southern Latin America, we also have examples of the writings of Bebetin and co on Latin America, particularly. So the interest groups that have been forming around the extractive sector, particularly gold mining across the world, and this has always been the consensus of either they are directly impacted or they are advocating for these people as the local population, and sometimes we call them indigenous population. And these groups, particular civil society, social movements, and different kinds of agitations, and then groups have been formed. Even at public sector, we have in some countries where in parliament, we have groups who are emerging to advocate for local people against the interests of their own government. So these developments in the extractive sector, particularly the benefit sharing arrangement, is a big question globally, and that has been so situated in literature. So these conflicts most often have been as a result of the poor negotiations between the extractive companies, governments, and then these interest groups, local level interest groups. And in this case, negotiation here have been classified either as contentious or non-contentious. And we see more contentious negotiation strategies resulting into the so-called wars and then violence and roadblocks we have in many parts of but we also have other forms of negotiations that have failed, but that are not quite violent. And then we can have examples of that one in Ghana and other West African countries where negotiations between extractive companies and government and local assemblies are ongoing and sometimes not yielding the results. So now the question has been, in the area of Ghana, if I come home to Ghana, and the areas of research, particularly conflict related to the mining sector, has always been the South. So in this case, we are talking about Obuasi, one of the oldest commercial gold mining areas, Takwa, Pristia, and a lot of other areas of Wasa Krupon, Wasa Menfi, and then stretching all the way down Ashanti region, talking of Jakubua, Mansua, Dobia, all those areas. Several research have been conducted trying to understand the conflict. And then the conflicts have been so long. We've heard of roadblocks, we've heard of Nimon gold mining company having a lot of agitations with people of the Brame area, Kenya State, #1 and #2, and we have a lot of those research conducted. So far, several research, including the works of Ayala Zono, the works of Teria Hilson, Gavin Hilson, myself work some around the Obuasi area where we talked about the booms and then the dislocations, and a lot of concerns and research has really been done up to date. Now, we come to Northern Ghana. And Northern Ghana, as I've explained, a lot of research being done on gold mining, conflicts, and then related issues in the South. But there's a new development in Northern Ghana. Northern Ghana historically is not noted to be gold mining. And the area before independence was always what we call the hewers of wood and drawers of water. People from the down south, north were rather moving to provide labor in the mines. So gold mining was not a focus, even though in several attempts by the colonialists before independence to explore gold in the north, evidence of that in the 1960s, in the 1940s and 50s, and commercial gold was not quite possible. Now, until the 1960s, when some commercial discoveries were made, and these discoveries led to some level of investment, and then few companies came in, tried to get commercial licenses to explore gold in Tongo, in one of the locations I'll be showing very soon. So now the interest of gold became quite more rampant when few locations, people with experience from down south, especially those involved in the artisanal mining, began coming home and trying to explore the opportunities around. And luckily for them and then for the region, a lot of discoveries were made locally. And the issue of small-scale mining became a very important activity, particularly in the 1990s in the Northern Ghana. So the 1990s, we saw a lot of work from the Tongo area and then stretching all the way to my own village in 1995, where commercial discoveries in terms of the illegal mining became very rampant in these areas. Now, this small scale mining had existed, as I said, from then up to date. And we had a lot of Chinese and then foreign interests in the small scale mining, and especially those who were operating in down south, where small scale mining has become so big in terms of operations. So a lot of the foreigners also extended their tentacles down north and then have been involved in these small scale mining activities. Now, the commercial mining in this area, as I said, has not been much explored until the past few years, about 20 years or about 10 years now. We had a lot of interest coming in. So a number of companies acquired what we call the exploration license and then had been exploring for commercial deposits so that they can go into large-scale mining. Fortunately, in the past 5 years, we've been so successful in terms of discoveries. So about 2 mining companies have come and have acquired what we call the mining licenses now. So we have the EL Mining International and then Cardinal Mines. These companies have, as we speak, have now gotten to the level of what we call in the extractive sector development state. So, and then one of them has promised to produce at least by the close of this year. So that is the EL and then the Cardinal Mines. So this photo, the map is just to show you the Upper East region and then the locations where I'm talking about. For those who have not been to Ghana, this part of Ghana, this part of Ghana, that's called the Upper East region. Then we have about 15 district assemblies. And what I'm talking about now, particularly, is this area called the Talisi. This is where the 2 commercial mines have now been developed. But apart from this, almost every part of the region, there's some forms of small-scale mining going on. So I can talk about this area, in Pani area, there's gold mining. Around the Pusga area, getting to Burkina Faso, there's some mines happening here. Burkina Faso also have some mines at this side of the divide. Around the Boku, the famous Boku area, stretching to Widana area, around this area, we have some mining going on. In Binduri, recently, there's some alluvial mines on the White Volta. So cutting through this Binduri area and now stretching back to Boku West and then to Nam area, which is also another. So these 2 districts currently are the hot cake in terms of commercial mining areas. So generally, and that stretches all the way to Bolga and then the Kasina and Kana. So basically, almost every location here has become a gold hub, and interest is growing high in these areas. So now, basically, so I talked about this already, about the emergence of commercial mining in northern Ghana. That's what I talked about, where a lot of interest is growing. And as we speak now, there's confirmed commercial mining with license to operate. And then these 2 mining companies are currently developing, and then they have really been well established legally with all the installations are ongoing, and then mining is likely to happen very soon. So now that mining is beginning to happen in the commercial mining is beginning to happen, the issues of conflicts will take different dimensions, because already, as we said, the artisanal mining also brought its own different forms of conflict, which we said, studies have been conducted in that area to look at, between the artisanal miners themselves fighting against each other, and the basic rivaling kind of conflicts had already been established. But now that we have commercial mining, what is now next? Yes, we know that there are a lot of issues, particularly about the governance structures, local level governance structures that has always been inducing conflicts in the South. But the North, in particular, has unique identity. The issues that may have caused the conflicts in the South cannot be transposed. We cannot assume that the same things may happen because the governance structure is completely different. Land ownership regimes are completely different as compared to the South. When it comes to chieftaincy, it's completely different arrangement. And this knocks as being the causes of the conflict among chiefs, the behaviors of the chiefs against the companies, the behavior of chiefs against the local landowners in the South is completely different. So now that poses a different environment. Unfortunately, there's been a bit of limited research in that area. As we speak, there's very limited research as to what governance structures are available in terms of the arrangement of how benefit to be shared, in terms of environmental impact of the area, how the impact of this large-scale mining will have on the livelihoods of the people. It is not being established yet. The forms of the expectations of the people, yes, definitely will always have large expectations of people. But what are the expectations of the local population? That has not been scientifically been established. Then we also have issues of local institutions and how are the local institutions ready or not ready to be part of the negotiations process that has always led to conflicts. Can we use them? Do we have local knowledge in the area that are useful for stimulating dialogue and discussions among these big mining companies who have a lot of experience already in their operations elsewhere? But do we have that capacity at the local level in terms of their local knowledge? So all these questions are becoming very necessary for research to be conducted. And that is why this proposal is being made. And we will be doing series of this research. It's going to be quite large. Each of these will be given much attention, and then we'll delve deeper qualitatively into some of these things. When necessary, we'll be do quantitative, but for now, it will be more qualitative to delve deeper into the issues to understand them, and we can probably model them economically, political economy analysis can be done later. But for now, pure qualitative analysis will be required for us to understand the dynamics that are developing and what we can do next. So in terms of my methodology, I will be purely qualitative, but will also be guided by one philosophy of research, that is the energy, what we normally call the environmental justice perspectives. This energy justice or environmental justice be used interchangeably in this case, but largely coming from the cosmopolitan philosophy that the world belongs to all of us and we must all benefit from it. And from that philosophy, it's important that whatever resource that is being discovered, everybody has a right to benefit from it. And for that matter, if you are denied, you are being injustifiably denied. And for that angle, we try to promote this concept of environmental or energy justice, which has been some earlier work done by Jones and Ross and Nichols, and recently Macules and co. have tried to look at how this framework can be used to model and then frame research so that in their perspective, if these justice angles are not really delved deeper, then they are the causes of the conflicts that most often come up in the extractive sector. So in their analysis, and then you try to categorize this into 3 areas. We talk about the distributional justice, and then their argument is that if the distribution of the effects of the mines in terms of how much has been the impact on the livelihood of the people, you have not been able to examine that much so you can distribute the benefit as well, then you'll be causing a lot of conflicts. So they call for detailed analysis of what we normally call the cost-benefit analysis. of the extractives so that you can examine especially the impact on the livelihoods, to what extent, so that you can do detailed analysis. Most often it has always been done at the periphery level, but we need detailed analysis of that so that we're able to establish, so that you can distribute the benefits as well, so that everybody can benefit. Whoever who is losing genuinely should also gain. So from the distributional justice perspective, we'll be delving into that to examine how the conflict can be reduced or mediated from that angle. Then we also have the recognition justice. In this particular case, most of the conflicts have always been as a result of people not being recognized, because people in the local settings have certain levels of powers that they need to be recognized. And participation is one of the key to get people recognition. So from the perspective that I'll be looking at, we'll be looking at how local participation in decision-making will be or has been in the coming of these mines, and whether there are potential conflicts that will come up as a result of that or not. So delve deeper into using different kinds of analysis here to look at some of the levels of participation as unseen level of participation. Those analysis will be done to establish what kinds of recognition are we giving to the local people. Then we talk about procedural justice. Here, we're talking much about the procedures, the corporations, the government structures that are available to establish relationships between these locals and then the companies, their company level structures or institutions that are created to mediate between the communities, the local actors, and the companies and government. So we'll be delving deeper into this area of our research to see how best. Generally, our assumption is that if we are able to be guided by this philosophy and then framework, then we'll be able to understand the emerging conflicts or the conflict that will be emerging from a perspective that globally or generally has been considered as the key causes of conflicts in the extractive area. In that case, we can provide recommendations for policy and then for institutional reforms and then legislative reforms as well. Okay. So generally, my research will be purely, as I said, qualitative, and then we'll delve much into snowballing to identifying the key people that we'll be working with, and then we'll have sufficient time to get experts who are already working in the area, conferences, workshops, debates, spaces that we can identify people who we can talk to will be the source of data for this work. And the field work, as I said, will be more visits, and we'll do more ethnographic analysis, work getting deeper into understanding the local structures as well. And then our analysis, as usual, will be guided by the framework that I've talked about, the environmental justice framework, and findings will be analyzed and then presented in that form. So on that note, I will thank you very much for your attention, and then also to get your input as to how best, where your experiences, we can model this study, which is going to be quite a long time study in the area. So your views and inputs will be very relevant for us and for us to be able to move forward in this research. So on that note, I thank you once again.